25. Good to see each and every one of you here this morning. We'll ask at this time that the chairman of the Rutherford County Commission will give us our prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand at this time.
Bow with me, please. Our Father, Lord, we're thankful for this day. We're thankful for the many, many blessings of life. God, be with us as we go through this meeting today. May we do what is in the best interest of the citizens of Rutherford County. Lord, be with those that are less fortunate in our community. Be with those that are heavy on our hearts, and meet the needs in their lives and the lives of their family. We ask you to be with our Department of Safety as they serve Rutherford County, and our armed forces as they serve our country. We ask it for their protection, and that you look over them and their families. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Thank you, and you may all be seated. Appreciate Chairman Phillips for leading us in our pledge. We'll now have the roll call and termination of quorum. Madam Secretary.
Jim Averwater. Here. Jeff Phillips. Present. Mike Cush. Present. Lee Bogle. Here. Charlotte P. Here. Trey Gooch.
Here.
Jim Thompson. Here. Michael Shirley.
Here.
Jason Beavers. Here. Pettis Reed.
Here.
We have a quorum.
We do have a quorum. We have the approval of our minutes. I don't believe we have any today. So our Vice Chairman will just pass you up at this time. Public comment period. Any requests?
No, sir.
No public comments today. Items withdrawn or deferred?
Just one item, not on the agenda that you have before you, but the reason it's a revised agenda was there was a site plan for 7-Eleven that was removed off the agenda per the applicant's team's request. So just be advised, that's the reason you received a revised agenda.
Thank you. Going now into our new business. A, waiver request. Item 1, Lillian Towe, 254001, requesting waivers for a lot of less than 5 acres along a private easement and off-site of septic soils easement for property located at 4849 Reapproval Pike. Mr. DeMasi.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you, and good morning, everybody. The applicant obtained building permits for a principal structure on this property, which is the 4849 Reapproval Pike, back in February of 2024, and for an accessory dwelling unit in August of the same year. The property is over an acre. It's about 5.5 acres, so the accessory dwelling unit, or ADU, was allowed by right. The applicant has run into some issues with his lending institution, and subsequently the ADU has to be on its own tract of land. Unfortunately, the way that this lot is situated, it does not appear it can be split in such a way that both tracts would meet the minimum lot frontage requirements, which would be 50 foot of road frontage, or minimum lot size for properties on an access easement, which would be 5 acres. So due to the location of the structures and their soil sites, the applicant's asking for an off-site septic soil waiver. We did ask for the applicant to pursue the waiver prior to submitting a final plat. The applicant has submitted a conceptual drawing, which has been included with your agenda packets. Fire hydrant was recently added near the frontage of the subject property when this was divided back in 2024, and I did attach the plat for your reference. I will say that I've spoken with the applicant about this several times. He pursued this in good faith as far as putting the permit for the building, the principal building and the accessory dwelling unit. Unfortunately, the issue that he's running into with his financial institution is not the first time I've heard that. That seems to be becoming more and more of an issue. Nothing that we can really do anything about, but it's something that we advise applicants about frequently when we know these things are coming. So with that, Mr. Towe is here. If you have any questions for him, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
One more thing, Chairman, if I may. We have had several discussions with TDOT recently, and they have the new policy to limit the number of driveways on their state roads, highways. You can see they're sharing 2 driveways already for 2 houses. So if they added a third for this ADU, I do not believe that they would mind this at all. I think they'd rather want this set up. Thank you.
Commissioners, questions or comments? I'll call on you in just a moment. Commissioners, if you don't have any other questions, I'll ask that the applicant come forward. He has something he'd like to give you some information further. Just come up here and give us your name and address and speak to the commissioners out here.
I'm William Towe, the builder and homeowner, 4849, 4847, Butler. I bought that 10 acres, divided up as a builder, and now I'm currently living on my daughter. The bank is not allowed, they want two properties. They want it separated. I've got a 50-foot right-of-way to street, which could still supply the house in the back, and I've got another 50-foot that I'm able to get designed to go back to the rear property, off my property. Environmental's already approved it, so all I need is, this driveway easement. Any questions?
Questions for the applicant? Right over here, sir. Right over here.
I did a similar situation with my parents when we built our house.
Yes, ma'am.
And the bank made us have all the paperwork, even though your parent, father, daughter, you have to have all the legal paperwork for the next owner.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sure the bank is making you do that.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, they will not finance it as it is, and I've still got it on a construction loan, so I've got to pay off the bank, and I can't get permanent financing. And my daughter being young, and I've got my granddaughter living on the property too, she's not going to be able to finance all of it. So she would be risking losing it after I left. And I'll be 65 in June. But I have 50 foot at the highway, and as you see, it splits right there in the back, and I'm going to have 50 foot more right there to go back. So it shouldn't, I wouldn't think it'd be a problem.
Is the driveway listed on here on this? Is this the fuzzy picture?
Right up there.
The route for the.
Yes, sir. I've drawn it in. I've drawn it in right here to the left, which is what I'm using now to get to the farm. I mean, it's all 5 acres, about 5.3 right now. But that's what I'm using to go around. And I have more than 50 foot, to get back to the house.
Mr. Bogle?
I think what concerns me is the off-site soils. Does the property currently have off-site soils to service the home that's existing there, or is it going to take that soil up
We're hooked up to the other side on the tank.
off-site?
Yes, we're hooked up now. Now up here in the front area right here on the left, those are backup soils right there. And we're going to include them to use them if we ever need one.
Are the primary soils contained on each of the parcels then?
Primary soil back there in the back right, behind the house, out in the middle right there.
Okay. To service both parcels?
It's a 3-bedroom soil site. The house I'm living in, 1 bedroom, 1,100 square feet. My daughter lives in 2,200 square feet.
Other questions for the applicant?
I might have missed something there. I went through this myself here in
Yes,
the
sir.
last 6 months. The other site that you're living on that has a soil site, when I went through it, they made me make sure I had a backup site. You have a backup site on that site?
Yes, sir. It's a backup site back on the back right, and I have another 2-bedroom up on the front left of the other house. It's a backup site. And Mandy said we could use all those as a backup site if it's needed.
And he'll have to, assuming this gets approved, of course, he'll have to do a re-subdivision plat of this lot. That'll all have to be shown on there, and TDEC would have to sign off on it. So obviously, they're not going to do that unless it meets their requirements.
Thank you, Duke. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Right out here. Mr. Cush?
Michael Hughes, this is a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Your Your audio kind of cut out when you were explaining the
Oh,
TDOT.
sorry.
Well,
Yeah.
the driveway situation that TDOT.
Yes, sir.
Would you repeat that?
Yes, sir. TDOT has a new policy to limit the number of potential conflict points, which means limit the number of driveways. So anywhere they can combine driveways or come off a different street, that's what they're after. So if you could get 3 lots or 3 residences on one driveway connection out to Bradyville Pike, TDOT would be all over that.
So this is a plus then for
Yes,
him?
yes,
Okay.
yes, sir.
If I could make a comment about that, TDOT, I mean, I would still be using the same driveway. There wouldn't be another driveway at the street. I'd only be splitting it up on my property. And I built the other house and sold it too, so.
I have a question right back here.
This is, Mr. Sanders, do you have any concerns about or requests as far as marking this for emergency response, that the first responders know which driveway fork they're going to get to the different properties that we should include in this application?
From an emergency response standpoint, we just require that there be visible numbers at the street, identifying which driveway access would go where, but that would be about the extent of it.
Yeah, I've got numbers at the split of the driveway that show these.
At every-
Code made me do that.
Yeah.
So we can include that in staff comments that that each split would be numbered appropriately for first responders?
Yes.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Commissioners? Comments, discussion, or a motion?
I make a motion we approve based on staff, and with staff comments.
Motion to approve with staff comments. Do I have a second? Have a second? Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? It has been approved. Item 2, James G. Newman, 254002, requesting waivers for a lot of less than 5 acres off a private easement for property located at 3531 North Lamar Road. Mr. DeMasi.
Yes, sir, thank you. The applicant would like to split the property into 2 separate tracts. There is a concept plan that I've included with your agenda packets. You'll see that on your iPads. The applicant owns the subject property as well as the property immediately to the north, which is 3697 North Lamar Road. Based on the concept plan, the applicant plans to create Tract 1 as a flag lot using a portion of that property immediately to the north. And then Tract 2 would be accessed via a 50-foot access easement. I believe this is for family member. Since Tract 2 is proposed to be less than 5 acres, he has asked for a waiver to the minimum size requirement. He has also reached out to Gladeville Utility District. A fire hydrant can be supported on that water line, so they are not requesting a fire hydrant waiver as part of this. Not sure if the applicant's here. I'm looking in the audience. I don't see them. But be happy to answer any questions. This isn't terribly different from the one we just considered just a few moments ago. There's not a second dwelling that's already been established like the first one, but similar as far as asking for a waiver for the less than 5 acres along a private easement. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, any questions for the staff? If not, anyone representing the applicant? If not, commissioners?
Chairman Reed, may I add something as well? This looks like it may also solve an encroachment problem. That you can see this existing house is over the property line. I think what Douglas said is they own both these parcels, and that would help.
And Mike Hughes, Mr. Hughes is correct. When you look at the concept plan, you can kind of see what he's proposing for a property line. He's kind of angling Part of that looks like it's about the line itself, about 362 feet or so. And he realizes that there is an encroachment there, and we talked about that. So that was the reason he was proposing that in the first place.
Comments or motion?
He will need to get a little creative with the access easement to get back to track 2. We'll have to work with him on that. And you say we'll see a plat for that?
We will, and we've talked about, he's already talked to the person that has the lot right in front of his. We've discussed that, and then there's already, I believe, an existing 25-foot easement to that property, and he knows he'll put 25 on his, so he's aware of that.
If you're looking for a motion, Chair, I would make a motion to approve, subject to all staff comments.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second? We have a second over here. Further discussion? Mr. Shirley?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is the driveway leading back to track 1, is that paved or is that gravel?
I believe it's gravel, just looking at it. I can't swear that I haven't actually seen it, but I believe it's a gravel drive, looking at it.
I have concerns about more traffic heading back there because I don't have an address on this, but that first house right there, more extra dust of more cars going back there, back and forth, just dust clouds. I think about some of the phone calls that I've received as a road board member from these shared driveways, where the person up by the first house on this little shared road gets all the traffic and the dust and the noise, and we're just adding to that with this another house back there.
Mr. Chair, I have a question here, and that is, I'm assuming that a new survey and deed will be drawn up and recorded at the county so that, this is a great drawing. I appreciate this drawing, but this is not an official type drawing.
Correct.
That we need along.
This will have to be platted, similar to the last one we just talked about. Yes, sir.
You said this was something similar to what we just did, and I'm concerned about establishing landlocked property. And, with easements, the other one had a 50-foot easement, correct? And
It did.
And I can't see.
Well, this one's already, the existing tract, the subject tract is already landlocked. It was like that. So, like I said, there is an existing, I think it's 25-foot easement from what the applicant told me. Now, he owns the property right to the north as well. So that's partially what he's wanting to use to help rectify some of the situation by being able to provide the 50-foot full access easement to it.
Commissioner Pete, try your other mic. See if it has a little more volume. That one.
Test.
Yeah, it has a little more volume. Any other questions? Please call the roll.
Jim Overwater? Yes. Jeff Phillips? Yes. Mike Cush? Yes. Lee Bogle? Yes. Charlotte P? Yes. Trey Gooch?
Yes.
Jim Thompson? Yes. Michael Shirley?
No.
Jason Beavers? Yes. Pettis Reed?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Motion carries. Moving now in items B, submitted for preliminary plan approval. Item 1 is Haynes Estates, 251001, 186 lots, 178 billable on 198.63 acres zoned RM, located along Shelbyville Pike, US 231. Haynes Brothers Lumber Company is the applicant. Mr. DeMasi.
Yes, sir, thank you. The applicant is proposing to develop this property into a new single-family residential subdivision. This is not a planned development, so the minimum lot size for the RM is 15,000 square feet, and this is consistent with the subdivisions that surround the subject property. The primary access point will be along Shelbyville Pike, but they are providing access into the Colonial Estates subdivision to the east at two existing stub streets, be them Continental Drive and also Puritan Way. There was also a traffic study that was done for this that recommended some improvements along Shelbyville Pike. I'll let Mike describe those here in just a moment. We did meet with their design team on several occasions about this, about providing a roundabout along the main access drive for traffic calming purposes. That has been added, and you'll see that on the plans that, again, you can see on your iPads. With that, most of our comments have been addressed. I will turn it over to Mike to discuss the traffic situation and the traffic study that we had the applicant submit and was reviewed by our third-party consultant. So, Mike, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, Douglas. So we did have a few meetings with TDOT on this, and they are proposing, and you'll see on the plans here shortly, a main drive on Shelbyville Pike, but unfortunately there is not a crossover median cut at this main drive. So what they're going to have to do is put left turn lanes at either crossover, one at the north, directly to the north where they're building that new Hindu temple, and then that Church of Christ is right here, and then one down a little bit farther to the south to Crescent to allow people to safely turn north or south and then get back into this development. As Doug mentioned, it's going to provide two additional access points to Colonial Estates, yes, okay, Colonial Estates. One up at the northern end and one a little bit farther south. If you recall, some of you were here a little bit longer, this is Rucker Landing to the north. We were hoping that they would have another connection to Rucker Landing, but they ran into some wetlands issues up here. So we did not get another connection to the north to Rucker Lane. So with the two connections to the back, that will help Colonial Estates, and then it'll also give these residents an opportunity to maneuver their way down to Christiana Elementary School and Christiana Middle School, a little bit farther south off of Parsons. So we're glad that they worked with us and added those two connection points in the back. Let's see what else. There are some challenges with this property, not unlike any other in Rutherford County. If I can get this to zoom in a little bit, I think it's being squirrely with me. I'll go to the plan. So you can see this design pattern here. It's not a prehistoric artwork or anything like that. It's an actual attempt by the previous owners of the property to help drain that wet soil. So they've identified some wetlands here in the northeast part of the property and eastern part of the property. They are going to leave several of the wetlands in place. Now this area right here, they will need to mitigate that to build through that. So they'll have to buy credit somewhere else to remove this wetlands. Their step system will be a little bit farther down here in this pocket of good soil. And CUD will have access through this road here. So the first phase will be the main drive coming in and the step system here, and they will have one connection to Colonial Estates here. Continuing on, there are several areas that we've asked the design team to look at specifically. There's some drainage concerns that we had in Colonial Estates that they're going to help work with us on. There's the subdivision to the northwest is called Applewood. They've got a big room for a stormwater management area here, and then other stormwater management areas in different locations. So, and another thing that we talked about with this new connection and all these houses in this back area, you've got these long straightaways. So we asked them, what can we do to help calm the traffic down? And this front area is going to be reserved for future development here. So we talked with the staff, and they are going to put in a traffic circle here to help slow down the traffic, and also be a kind of like a division point if this were ever to go commercial or whatever in this front area. It will be kind of like a delineator for the residential area in the back. So we were happy with that. They are going to look at stop signs through here to control the flow of traffic that way, and also I believe they're going to post the speed limit as 20 miles per hour to help slow the vehicle traffic down through here. So all that being said, it's a good design firm to work with. They're always works with county staff to help address these issues. They've gone above and beyond, I believe, with our requests to look at some of these critical areas. So we believe that we can work with them and make this a good development.
Commissioners, questions or comments for staff? Mr.
Mike,
Shirley.
Mike, for the four-way intersection there in the middle of the project, who will determine whether that's a four-way stop or a two-way stop?
I think they've already determined that they want to make that a four-way stop.
Can we include that in there to just make that a four-way stop?
Yes. I think they might have already labeled that.
Okay.
And we will need construction plans for each phase that they're working on. I'll try to scroll through these if my computer doesn't lock up.
And I do
stop signs there.
I do want to go on the record of thanking them for the traffic circle. I think that that's an easy way to help break up that long straightaway, and then a four-way stop there in the middle of that neighborhood will be much appreciated as well.
Yeah, I see them on a couple sides, but we'll work with staff and make sure that it's addressed. Let me go back to the master plan real quick, if this computer doesn't freeze up on me.
Yeah, I'm looking at the match line sheet C 1.2, and it just shows stop signs on Championship Drive, not the, unless I'm missing the cross.
I think we were going to have them here and then at other locations too, to help break the flow up. This location and then maybe back here. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, we're always looking ways to slow the traffic down. And
I know stop signs are not designed to slow traffic. I mean, like you can't use them to mitigate speed.
Yes.
Necessarily, they need to be warranted. But I think at that four-way in the middle of that neighborhood, it needs to be there. And I don't see that on the plan, but if we could include that would be a four-way stop in our comments, I would.
Yes, sir.
Like that. Thank you.
Anyone else?
We haven't talked the highway department into doing traffic speed humps or traffic calming devices like that just yet. I'm still working on it.
Trying to get me in trouble here.
Yes. I'm trying to work on him a little bit, but we're always looking for ways to slow the traffic down and get rid of the long straightaways.
If not, I want to ask that a representative for the applicant to come forward. Jamie Reed. Morning.
Morning. I'm Jamie Reed with SCC. Morning, everybody. Yes, I agree with you on, Michael, on the stop signs. I think Mike and I met the other day trying to determine which ones would be ideal for that, but including the traffic circle. And I think me and you mentioned, Mike, the one on the south, potentially going into that future commercial. We also talked about that one.
Oh, this one here?
I think,
Yeah.
didn't we?
Yeah.
A four-way. So, yeah, whatever y'all suggest, I'm totally agree to slow the traffic down. We've also made the speed limits 20 miles an hour in the subdivision. But I want to also emphasize this subdivision is Haynes Brothers, local guy that's been here as long as I've been alive and stuff. But this subdivision will be, everything that's going to be bought and built in this subdivision will come from right here. The home builders are right here. Nothing's going to be shipped in and brought in, but it's mandatory that everything be built here. I just want to let you know that all our local suppliers and local workers and stuff will be building here. This is not a out-of-town group that's coming in here. It's a local guy, and the whole purpose of him buying these subdivisions and developing them is to keep stuff local, for people buying stuff from our local stores and stuff. But anyhow, I just want to let you know that, and I'll be glad to answer any questions on this subdivision.
Jamie, we won't charge you for that commercial.
I'm sorry. I just wanted y'all to know that this is not. Yeah, and I'm not even. I need to get. I'll charge for that later. But no, seriously, the step system, we've got plenty of soils, extra soils that I worked with Jason at CUD on, even for potential future growth up at the front there. We really don't know what we're planning on up there. Maybe townhomes, maybe some commercial along the highway there eventually. But right now and that's like Mike said, the reason we put the roundabout / traffic circle there is to delineate, hey, I'm entering this residential subdivision, slow down, or if I'm exiting, the same thing. So we thought that'd be a great center point to break up the division of everything. So instead of putting it into the subdivision, because a lot of times we put them in the center of the subdivision, then you're dealing with 4 residential lots that's coming off that subdivision where they put their driveways and stuff. This eliminates all that. So, but yeah, I'd love to answer any questions. I think it's a
Commissioner?
Jamie, can you share with us the character of the build? What type of homes are going in there?
Oh, yes, sir. These will be nice brick. I know Brian Morris, his company is going to be one of the builders. They build large brick homes, so these are going to be large brick homes. These are not going to be little starter homes subdivision. It's going to be nice.
We've been fooled, Kyles, to say that as it relates to rentals and those type of things.
Yes, sir.
These are supposed to be occupied by homeowners, correct?
Yes, sir.
Would that be stipulated?
Oh, yes, sir. Then Terry and them will want to make, and Brian and the guys that are building out here would want to maintain that too, because these are going to be custom type homes. He builds custom homes. These are not slab type homes. These are crawl space, nice custom type built home, brick homes and stuff. So.
Trust you, and I also trust Terry Haynes quite a bit. So
Oh yeah.
I just needed to make sure
and
ask those questions.
Yeah, and he wouldn't allow somebody to come in there and build to his power, I guess is the best I could say it, to do that, because he would hurt himself for this future stuff up front, and along with, you let some of those guys get in there and they mess up the remaining portions of your subdivision. So he will really watch and monitor who's building. That's why he's got a select few builders that are going to be building. They're custom builders that use their supply, or local guys, local vendors and stuff. So.
Commissioner P.
We do appreciate local builders, so yes. What schools, in this area, as you know and everybody else knows, people are concerned about the overcrowded of schools and traffic. On the plan it says you have the turning lanes in the middle, but are there turning lanes into the
Yeah, there's a right turn lane into the side as you're going northbound, yes, ma'am. But they're like Mike said, this TDOT would not let us do an open cut like we wanted to, but so the only thing we could do is put turn lanes at the 2 cuts that are already there where you could loop all the way around. So everybody's got and actually he made not just a turn lane, right, Mike? He add another, 14 feet crosshatch. So we're building like 2 lanes in both directions for turning movements into the site.
Great. And what schools are this
Oh,
zone?
good. What is this? Christiana, right?
Middle.
Christiana, just to the south of us. It's just right. Right below is actually our back streets out of Colonial Estates go into the school.
Yeah.
Yeah, the high school.
Jamie, is this curb and gutter?
Yes, sir.
Sidewalks?
Yes, sir.
Sidewalks?
Well, let's see here. I can't remember. I hate to say yes, and then
We strongly discourage ditch side subdivisions.
Yeah.
You'd have to come up with a good excuse to have one these days.
we typically only do the ditch sections in large estate type subdivisions is what I like to see. I'd like to keep that rule fit, but the subdivisions, like Mike said, yeah, it's all curb and gutter, but I don't see any sidewalks in here. I don't know if that's something the developer on the construction plans wants to add, but we're not showing any.
Okay, I wanted to make sure I wasn't missing them. I didn't
Yeah,
see it.
no,
I saw we have 50-foot right-of-way, but no.
You're not.
But it is curbed
Yes, sir. Curb and gutter.
and guttered, but no sidewalks. So there's
78. Right.
I see 186 lots here, 178 buildable lots.
And there'll be more up front, but that up front will probably be sidewalks because it'll be. I see potential townhomes or some commercial type stuff up front.
Well, I see a lot of families living here.
Yeah.
I would feel a lot better if I saw sidewalks here, if that's a possibility.
Well, I can ask the owners if they want to put it on one side, maybe, if that's an option for those guys. I'm not going to say no. They may come back to me and tell me, say, put them on both sides. I don't give them the option, so I'll ask.
Okay.
And at least one side.
Right, and we need to work with CUD on that because we've had subdivisions where they wanted to put them in on the back end, and we couldn't because of the utility placements.
Yeah, so we placed them on the right of way, like on the lots or right to something like that. So and then we sign so actually the sidewalks are off a lot, so the highway department don't have to maintain them.
Sure.
If I can add one more thing about the sidewalks, I just want to make sure everybody's aware that sidewalks are not a requirement in our subdivision regulations. If that's something that we would like to request of the applicant to at least talk to the developer about, fine. I don't think it'd be appropriate to condition that because it's not something that we currently require. So just want to make sure everybody's aware of that.
But I'll definitely bring it up with the developer team and stuff and ask them if it's an option, if they want to go that route or if they, because I know they've had issues in a lot of the other subdivisions they've done. I need to find out what the pros and cons, like what Pembroke, Mike?
Pembroke, yeah.
Pembroke's one, so I'll find out.
Beautiful homes, no sidewalks, and they wanted them after most of them were built.
Right.
Yeah.
So
without more traffic calming measures, kids in the neighborhood are going to be on the street.
Oh, yeah.
And we have long straightaways in here, and I just see we know that there's going to be kids living in this neighborhood.
Yeah, and I don't disagree at all. What I hate to do is I see a lot of these subdivisions and where I go, and you'll have sidewalks on both sides of the street, and people will be walking on the road.
Well,
and you're like, you got all this to, but yeah. I agree with you on the sidewalks. I definitely will get with them and whatever I can do in my power to get, one, at least on the main corridor or something like that.
Sure.
That'll take you through the roundabout up to that front maybe. I mean.
That would be a good thing from my perspective.
Actually, that's not a bad idea, Mike. Maybe that main boulevard coming down all the way, if worst case, just do. Yeah.
Other questions?
Yeah, where's the mail kiosk?
It's down by the step system in phase 1 next to lot 1. My eyes are not good up here at the 168.
That's another reason to have sidewalks, people walking down to get their mail.
Well, that's why they make us put all those parking spots. I'm just kidding with you. I agree if you,
It had nothing to do with the fact that they're required, Jamie, you're right.
Yeah, that way I won't have to do the parking spots. No, but it is. We did that in phase 1. There's a lot of open space down to the south side, and they're not on the main corridor coming in. So we try to get as close as we could to the coming in, and then it just works, good to that south side. So, but yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe we run one to it from that main boulevard over that short street too. I don't, I'll get with my team and see. I'll mention your preferences. Mail kiosk.
Other questions?
And that might be something that Planning Commission talks about adding as a requirement, sidewalks, underground electricity, things like that. We have a work session later today, so.
That was one of the discussion back in 2010.
So, Jamie, just to make sure I'm clear, these are minimum 15,000 square foot lots.
Yes, sir.
And that is congruent with the rest of the subdivisions around there. So
Correct.
this
It mimics, there's nothing sitting outstanding. Matter of fact, most of the average lot size is bigger than that. If you look at it, where the acreage versus the number of lots we're doing, there's a lot of open space, like Mike said, we've dealt with. If you look at it, it's basically one lot per acre.
Okay.
Even though our lots are 15,000, we're not asking for because we can't, because we got a bunch of wetlands to the north, and then to where Steve Harrison's granddaddy tried to farm that back in the back, all those little veins going out.
Yeah.
Those are like little veins. I mean, those are streams.
Okay.
But they're little small streams.
And to piggyback on Charlotte's question a minute ago about the traffic, and Mike, you may need to chime in here. Talk to me again about this particular subdivision will have access to is it just the grade school, or will it be the whole campus of Christiana without having to get on 231?
It has access to both the grade school and the middle school. They have to go south through Colonial Estates to get to Parsons.
You can take the back roads.
Correct.
And then they'll come up through Parsons to both campuses. Yes, sir. They're both connected.
So you would never have to get on 231 to take your child to school.
That's right.
You can, but you don't have to. I think there's a connection. I'll show you.
Go straight around the back. I think it was.
See,
Mike.
see, there's two connections
go.
down here, and then they have this private street that goes up here to the middle school.
Will it connect with that street right behind the school right there, Mike? Right there?
Right here?
No, sorry. Will this neighborhood, will cars be able to exit the backside of this neighborhood and get to where your cursor is? Okay, I will just tell you that is a huge problem with that in that neighborhood. When school lets out, people stack up in that neighborhood on a Caffer, I think is what it's called. People wait there and block other people's driveways, waiting for their kids to walk down that little sidewalk that they've built there for them, and to avoid the car rider line. So I just want everyone to know, like, we're adding to a problem back here with traffic with the school. So I do not see that as a solution. I see it as an addition to a problem that already exists for the people that live in that neighborhood. Just making sure that we understand. Like, parents cannot drive their kid right to the back of the school and drop them off. They drop them off in that neighborhood and they walk through someone's yard.
Through those yards.
And at the end of that street, there's a little sidewalk as well. Yeah, it happens at Siegel too. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how to. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't know how you could stop. Yeah. Well, they had the option to go either way. I guess you could go but the back way would be the easiest way to get through there. You know, going through Colonial Estates, those two exits, and coming around. But yeah, I agree with you. I believe that happens a lot of places, like you're saying.
Commissioner, I wasn't smiling at you. I was thinking about the problem. When my children went to school over in Columbia, at an elementary school like that, the same situation. Everybody parked in the neighborhood, let their children out. I have a feeling that even if you put more space within the school right here, they're going to park in the neighborhood to let them out. That's nature of the that's nature of the creature of the animal, and that's going to happen. And people understand that if you live in a neighborhood next to a school, you've got children, and that's part of it. I just recognize that situation and that problem. I know what you're talking about. Anything else? If not, thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Commissioners.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve with staff comments.
Motion to approve and have a second. Further discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? It has been approved. Item C, submitted for site plan approval. Number 1, Sulphur Springs Market Reapproval, 133012, construction of 4,500 square feet of general retail space for gas station, convenience market, and leasable space on 2.38 acres, Zone CS, located along Sulphur Springs Road. Tri-State Petroleum Incorporated is the applicant. Mr. DeMasi?
Yes, sir, thank you. This plan probably looks familiar to several of you. It's been on the docket a few times. It was initially approved by the commission back in September of 2018. It was then brought back before the commission for reapproval in November of 2020. The plan was deferred due to questions about the improvements to Sulphur Springs Road and how those improvements would be coordinated between this site and another site right to the west at the intersection, or I'm sorry, the interchange at 840 and Sulphur Springs Road. The applicant's design engineer actually represents both of these developments and has been working on plans for those road improvements. Those plans, the review's ongoing. I think we're getting to the point where we're getting pretty close to turning them loose with everything. This plan, as presented, was last approved by the commission back in March of 2021, and same with the other approvals. It has since expired since that time. The layout of what they're proposing hasn't changed, so they're just asking for reapproval of the site in order to start development again, along with the road improvements that will be necessary to Sulphur Springs Road, basically from near the interchange there out to the three-way stop there at Leanna and Sulphur Springs Road. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions. Mike is also available for questions, and we do have a representative here with the development from Helston Steel, so be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Commissioners, any questions for staff? Commissioner?
Thank you, Chair. Refresh my memory. When we approved, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. When we approved that big warehouse across, wasn't there also was this intersection part of that improvement process?
Yes, sir, it was. They were going to signalize this intersection to allow the free flow of traffic down Sulphur Springs to Leanna. A lot of traffic that gets off of 840 backs up in this area because they all have to stop for this three-way stop.
So is that project dead, hence the improvement of the intersection?
The way that it's currently approved, I don't think is going to happen. Now, we have had some discussions with the applicant's design team about making some proposed changes to the approved pattern book. There is a neighborhood meeting kind of mid-late May to start that process back up. Essentially what they're wanting to do is keep the overall square footage the same, but instead of 2 buildings, maybe break it down into 3 or 4 different buildings. The reason they're having to go back is just because it was so specific to 2 buildings. If you recall, there was one larger building, and then there was one that still large, but not nearly as large. So
does this proposal then, I mean, is this a chicken and an egg thing?
I don't think so. The improvements that they're proposing here were rather, I would say, independent of what was going to be proposed by the development on the west side of the interchange. Now, we did make, as part of the potential reapplication of that industrial park, they have done redoing their traffic study, and we have made them aware of these plans. In fact, we sent them just a PDF kind of showing them what's proposed so they can incorporate that with their plans. So everybody's aware of what's going on.
So if the intersection development happens, there is no surprise here on
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And as Doug mentioned earlier, they are working with the Primetime C store that's going at this parcel here, if you can see on the screen, and Sulphur Springs Market is in this location. So instead of having 2 separate turn lanes there with weaving areas in and out, they're going to build a continuous 3-lane section all the way almost down to this traffic signal, or 3-way stop, future traffic signal, hopefully.
Other questions? If not, we'll ask that the applicant come forward.
Morning. Morning. My name's Johnny Leonard. I'm with Huddleston Steel Engineering. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions?
And just to point out something I just remembered from this plan, they are going to share an entrance with the adjacent property. You can see it's kind of over this edge of the property here. So this will be a entrance in and then an exit out here to have a circular flow and kind of reduce the conflicts, hopefully.
I don't like the hopefully.
Well, you can have the best designed road site in the world, and then John Q. Public. Yeah.
I just do you all feel comfortable, from the development to the planning office, feel comfortable with the traffic flow out here? Like, are we making it worse with this?
Well, what I'll say regarding this particular development here, I think any opportunity that we have, first of all, for a center turn lane or anything like that, I think is going to be beneficial for the traffic in the area. I will also say that I believe an establishment like this, it's going to serve that immediate area where their trips are already occurring on this road. This is not going to generate traffic where people are going to come from miles away just to use this gas station. These people are already using these roads, in my opinion. So I don't know if we're necessarily making things worse. I think this is just going to serve the traffic that's out there already, but I do think the turn lanes will help with the flow out there. And like Mike was talking about earlier with the hopeful for the improvements from the industrial park on the other side of the interchange, I think that'll if those improvements come to pass, then I hope and would anticipate that the traffic out here would flow better than it does even today.
So you all feel that we've made that this plan helps make the best of the situation that we can right now?
I think that's a fair statement, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Commissioner?
Question I'd have is the plan. I wasn't part of this committee back 4 years ago, 5. Is this an immediate plan? They're planning on doing something? Because with Cherry Lane and all of that, I know it's going to relieve a lot of traffic at this site anyway. Are they planning on doing this? Is this something they're speculating on?
No, they are planning on doing this, yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Other questions for the applicant? If not, thank you, sir. Commissioners, discussion, questions, or a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve with all staff comments.
Have a motion to approve. Have a second. Further discussion? Please call the roll.
Jim Averwater. Excuse me. Jeff Phillips. Yes. Mike Cush. Yes. Lee Bogle. Yes. Charlotte P. Yes. Trey Gooch.
Yes.
Jim Thompson. Yes. Michael Shirley.
Yes.
Jason Beavers.
Yes.
Pattis Reed.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Motion does carry. Item 2, Butler Drive, Industrial Buildings, 253008, construction of 367,572 square feet of transport warehousing space on 26.79 acres, Zone EAC, located along Butler Drive. East Group Tennessee Holdings, LLC, is the applicant. Mr. DeMasi.
Yes, sir. Thank you. The zoning for this property was approved by the Board of Commissioners back in February of 2024. The use of this property will be classified as transport warehousing, and the use will be for warehousing and distribution. The site will be developed in 2 phases, and when you see the master plan on the big screen here in just a moment, you'll see that, but the applicant is asking for approval on both phases. There were several comments on this site plan due to the size of the proposed development. Of course, coordination is also required with the City of Murfreesboro as the rights-of-way to both the new realigned Butler Drive and then also Kenny Pipe Court are both within the City of Murfreesboro. There are some questions also about the location of the proposed retaining walls and how they'll be constructed or maintained without having to impede on adjacent property that's not owned by the applicant. I'll let Mike discuss that in a little more detail. I know they've made some changes to the site plan. But with that, there's someone here from the development team to answer questions, and we'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
If I may add a few things. So what Doug was talking about is the site with these large buildings has to be relatively flat to allow these buildings to be constructed, and over the rolling hills there are some areas that will need retaining walls. I think down on this southern end, on this kind of southwest corner here, I think there's one up here at this entrance here. So those are some things we had some concerns about. Typically, anything taller than 42 inches has to be designed by a structural engineer. And what we worry about is not just the initial design, but the long-term maintenance of those structures. They are showing them relatively close to the property lines. They originally had them, some of them directly on the property lines. One of our comments was, well, how are you going to build these? Or do you have permission from the adjacent property owner? The City of Murfreesboro actually owns the property to the south, and if I can pull that up, this is where, this is New Butler Drive here. This is the old Butler Drive, now called Kenny Pipe, and this is the subject property right in here. It's surrounded by city all around it. The City of Murfreesboro purchased this property, and I believe this is where they plan to put their transfer station, solid waste transfer station. Obviously, we had some concerns about disrupting their functionality. Just requested that they work with the city on this and make sure that there are no issues, and they can build these walls and maintain these walls over the long term. So most of the walls are not very tall. There are some that are 7, 9, 10 feet tall. So those are pretty substantial walls in places. So we need to know how they are going to be maintained, and I'll kind of try to zoom in with those. There's several things we need to discuss. This needs a little extra time to talk about. So try to get to some grading sheets. With this large site, like I said, it's, the existing ground is undulating up and down. So if they're making a relatively flat spots for these large buildings and truck courts and parking areas, there has to be some way to control the grades at the edges of this development. So a large set of plans, forgive me. Okay, so here we go. So on this site, north arrow is to the right. So this is the southern edge with the city property. You can see this heavy line here. It's relatively close to the property line. And I think I'll have to talk to the design engineer and have them speak, but I think it's only a few feet, like 4 or 5 feet off the edge. If you know anything about retaining walls with live loads behind the wall, parking, truck traffic, it's going to need some tiebacks into the parking area, drive aisles and things like that. So these will not just be gravity walls that you know, get the blocks from Home Depot. They're going to be substantial. They'll need to, you know, look at the drainage. Originally, they had drainage that had the storm drain right up the back at the wall, so we asked them to at least move them away, and they have done that. So that's one of our current concerns, is these retaining walls very close to the property lines. Let me go back to the master plan. And 100 years ago, when I was a young man, I used to work on freight docks, loading and unloading trucks. So one of the things we made a comment about is the interacting of pedestrian vehicles and truck traffic. Typically, you want to keep them separated. The truck drivers, the people driving the yard mules that switch the trailers around, they're looking up at numbers on a trailer or a dock door above, so they're not really looking down at vehicles in front of them. So we try to keep truck traffic and pedestrian vehicles separate. Mostly they are separate. They do have these two combined truck court areas, but it does come out to this main connection point on the northern end, and we have some automobile parking along this edge here. So you'll have trucks, if they're going to the new Butler Drive to get out. A lot of trucks, we believe, will be using Butler Drive because it's the new entrance. There will be, I believe, a signal down at Joe B. Jackson eventually when the new Buc-ee's comes online. So we're thinking we need to be aware of cars backing out as trucks maneuver this area. And you see other connection points, you know, passenger car parking in other places. They have segregated it somewhat, but typically, from what I've experienced, there's been more segregation of passenger cars and truck traffic. But they've told us that they've done this in other locations, and they have some examples, I believe, of where other sites like this are located. So that's number two. And then the third thing is the entrances. I think the entrances still need some modifications and tweaking. You can see that they've shown trucks coming and going out of here. We need to make sure that vehicles can safely maneuver in and out with the Butler Drive traffic. So the city built a 3-lane section. There is a continuous turn lane down Butler, which allows trucks to stop and be able to turn in here, which is great. But we need to make sure that the trucks can safely swing north, and if they wanted to go up to what's the Yoplait place, General Mills up to the north or something like that, they can safely do it. So the entrances, I believe, can be wider, and make sure that there are no issues with that. So those were my three big things: is the retaining walls, the mixing with automobile, passenger cars, and truck traffic, kind of like in this area right here. And then, you know, where they're coming out and going down this long drive aisle to get back to Butler Drive. You've got all these vehicles that could back into trucks coming or going. So those are my three concerns for this, and the applicant is here with his engineer to discuss.
Commissioners, questions with staff?
Mike, would you like to see a deceleration lane into this? As
I don't believe, Did they call for one on the traffic study, John? I don't think so. Okay, I don't think they called for those decel right turn lanes at either entrance, here or here, or on Butler Drive. And this is another tricky one here. It's kind of an awkward turn. They did widen that a little bit, but I still think that needs to be widened some more. They do have a blow up of that. There's 3.
And did the city change the plans for Kenny Pipe Court? Is it now going to be cut off from Joe B. Jackson? Because originally it was going to be right in and right out.
Yeah, it kind of went back and forth for a little bit. Our understanding is that it is going to be, there's not going to be access onto Joe B. Jackson from the new Kenny Pipe Court.
They pulled up a lot of the asphalt, so it looks like that. But I was like, man, that makes more sense.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to have to make a left-hand turn out of there and go down to the new Butler Drive, which.
Well, if they left that way, correct, yeah. If they went out the new Butler Drive, the realigned Butler Drive, they would take a right to get back up, go back up towards South Church Street, 231, or they could just go to Joe B. Jackson and hit the interstate.
Yeah, this Butler Drive comes out it meets Warrior Drive, and there's a traffic signal there, so which is a lot of truck traffic there. And this is the realignment of Elam Road here. The new Buc-ee's, I think, is coming in this location here, right here. These 2 areas that are looks like under construction. So I believe there's a traffic signal here. So we think that a lot of trucks will be coming out to this traffic signal to get back on the interstate or back Joe B. Jackson to Shovel Pike. So those are my concerns. I'm sorry.
Commissioner.
Which are relevant concerns. They're asking for not a preliminary plan, they're asking for a final or site plan approval, and not only for the first phase, but for 2 phases. And that's a lot of concerns. You said several things need to be discussed. Retaining walls, the mixed traffic, in and out access, and Commissioner Shirley mentioned more concerns. That's a lot of concerns for final approval of 2 phases.
Commissioner?
I certainly agree with Commissioner P. on that. Sounds like there's a few issues that need to be worked out still to get this thing fine-tuned enough for a plan. And I'll therefore make a motion to defer this until the applicant's ready.
We have a motion to defer. Have a second. Further discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mike, there's one fatal flaw I see on the storm drainage side. First of all, I'm comfortable with the retaining wall question that you had. Certainly, a modular block retaining wall with tiebacks, they do that all the time. Mm-hmm. I've got history with those kind of walls, and I don't really see a problem with that. It is an engineered fill. You know, so this is an important part of that whole foundation. My fatal flaw that I see is 10 feet off that retaining wall, they've got specified corrugated metal pipe as their storm drainage, which is not a water-resistant type joint. Stormwater is going to come in and out of those joints 10 feet off that retaining wall, and the detriment to any retaining wall is water. They would be better suited to spend a little more money and make that a concrete pipe. So I would highly suggest they review that, because that will kill an engineered fill next to a retaining wall. And on top of that, corrugated steel pipe does not have the longevity that other pipe choices have. So I think they're shooting themselves in the foot there. But I'm okay with the retaining wall, but it is a special type of wall. but it can be achieved. They do that all day long.
Before we vote, I think we had someone here from SEC. Do you want to hear them? Yes. No, I'm asking the commissioners. I'm not asking SEC. Commissioner, do you want to hear them in just some comments? SEC, come forward.
Hi, John Miner with SEC. Lots of comments. So as Commissioner Cush said, yes, there are types of walls that can be used in these situations. Primarily, the intent was to do a segmental block, which is a heavier duty block wall than, as my reference, what you'd get at Home Depot. We are also in discussion with the neighbor to the north to potentially have some grading easements so that the walls could go away entirely, which would be ideal. They are one of our other clients. That property, however, is in the city. It's actively being graded on now, so they've just finished clearing it. For the interconnection for the truck traffic with in relationship to the pedestrian cars, the developer East Group, they've been doing these for 40 odd years all over the southeast, and typically they've had some allowance for intermingling. To Mike's point, we did remove the northeast row of parking to eliminate the direct access points so that anything coming from Kenny Pipe could go into building 1 and 2 without any intermingling. And then same thing for the west side on Butler, can go 2, 3, and 4 without any intermingling. If there are any, as Mike was pointing out, dock workers that are going between the two building areas, and they did happen to go between in the pedestrian car area, those would not be labeled as docks. There is no signage for docks, dock numbering, so they would actually be focused, but that would be limited to only the kind of the middle area there. As far as turn lanes, both of these roads originally were done for commercial, for industrial uses, so the existing road infrastructure is adequate and appropriate for it.
And all three of these connections are within the city of Murfreesboro, so they will be issuing the street cut permit. So it has to be reviewed by the city as well on this.
Mr. Chairman, we kept talking about city, surrounded by city. This is an island. Why don't you incorporate the city, take it out of our hands, and let the city handle it? Why don't you do that?
The site does not have access to gravity sewer at this time. So we've done a private step system for all 4 buildings.
So what you're saying, the city don't want it?
The city's accepted everything around it, but hasn't provided sewer. So to make it a buildable site, we've wanted to do it as a step system.
So the answer is yes, the city don't want it?
We've not tried to annex it.
Long term, I think it'd be the best thing to do. Looks like, once again, that's an island out there. This type of heavy, or maybe more heavy commercial industrial development would be better suited to be in a city environment. I'm just asking, why don't you do that?
Just because there is no access to sewer, we would have to make that connection, and then we'd also have the city taxes, of course, added on there when we're not getting any of the benefit. One more thing that I'll point out about the maneuverability on site. For their lease types, they will see a lot of box trucks, so not everything that will be on site is the large tractor trailer. They do see a large number of more box trucks that you see for like delivery type stuff. Of course, we can't promise that it's entirely one or the other, but typically their primary users see a lot of the box trucks as opposed to the large 18-wheelers.
You've met with CUD, I guess, and then as far as the soils go, do you have backup soils on that same spot as well?
Yes, sir.
That's everything you need?
Yes, sir. Now, this is a private step system. It will not have to go through a CUD. It goes directly to the state.
Okay.
Anyone have questions for the applicant? If not, thank you, sir. We do have a motion for defer, and we'll move into the motion. Please call the roll.
Jim Averwater? Yes. Jeff Phillips? Yes. Mike Cush? Yes. Lee Bogle? Yes. Charlotte P? Yes. Trey Gooch?
Yes.
Jim Thompson? Yes. Michael Shirley?
Yes.
Jason Beavers? Yes. Pettis Reed?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Motion has been deferred. Moving now into staff reports and other business. Mr. DeMasi.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I don't have anything specific other than to say that immediately after this meeting, we will take a brief recess and then come back for the work session for Plan Rutherford.
All right. Remember that our next Planning Commission meeting will be May 12th, 2025, here in this building at 6:00 p.m. If there's nothing else to be discussed in this meeting, we are adjourned, and we'll have a brief recess for the next 10 minutes.